The Sticks and Picks Lacrosse Play Until the Whistle segment. Officials are a huge part of the game. Without the officials, the game wouldn't exist. These segments are for lacrosse fans to get a perspective from the officials and how hard it can really be at times during the game to make the right calls, respecting the officials and reminding fans that they are human too. Lacrosse fans, today we have a special guest on with us. Please welcome Ontario Lacrosse Official Roger Nurse. Roger, thanks for coming on.
Great being here, Will.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you, and I think lacrosse fans will benefit from hearing about your perspectives and stories about being an official. Obviously, your family is very well known in the athletic world. You're a former Major Series lacrosse player yourself. Your brother Richard is a former Hamilton Tiger Cat. Your brother's wife Kathy is a former McMaster basketball star, while your daughter Sarah is a member of the Canadian Women's National Hockey team and Olympic hockey silver medalist in 2018. Your son Isaac is an OHL champion and captain of the Hamilton Bulldogs. Your niece Kia Nurse is one of the WNBA's top players, and your nephew Darnell Nurse, who is currently a defenseman for the Edmonton Oilers. And your brother-in-law is also former Philadelphia Eagles quarterback Donovan McNabb. That's quite the family resume you have there.
Well, when the kids were playing sports when they were kids and just hacking around the playground, it was a lot of fun to watch because it was pretty high intensity.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I mean, it's obviously something special to have such an athletic family. And you've been involved in lacrosse for most of your life, and a big part of that's been in officiating. Can you kind of tell the fans which leagues you've officiated throughout your career?
Well, of course, I started out doing minor. To be truthful, I started doing field lacrosse first, back when we didn't have minor field. So I started out, my first game as a field lacrosse referee was University of Guelph against the Orangeville Generals U19 team that just won a national championship. So we got thrown in the fire real quick. And a few years later, I ended up coming out and doing box lacrosse after I stopped coaching. So I started doing minor, of course, climbed the ladder, got up into doing junior B prior to junior C. Got into doing junior A, senior B, have done some major. Spent 9 years in the official National Lacrosse League. Actually got an opportunity to get on the floor about 5 or 6 times over that course of time, team exhibition and regular season. So it's been a lot of lacrosse, and it's been a lot of fun doing a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I've talked to several players from Southern Ontario, and they always say that you have a lot of enthusiasm and you bring a lot of fun to the game of lacrosse. Is there a reason why you started to be a lacrosse official?
I actually started by accident. I used to, when I was playing field lacrosse, Jimmy Price was one of the big referees around for field lacrosse. Said to me, he goes, "Yeah, you seem to talk a lot, know a lot of the rules, so why don't you come to a referee clinic?" And he kind of bugged me, and he called me one day, and before you know it, I was in Toronto sitting in a field lacrosse clinic. And that was kind of the start of it. At the time, I was still coaching box lacrosse. I was a young coach, and so I was enjoying that while doing my field lacrosse. And then a few years later, when I stopped coaching, I wanted to stay in the game, and I transitioned in the box.
Oh, that's awesome. You've been a well-respected official in the game for many years, and you talked a little bit to me before this. You said there was a defining moment from being a crazy coach, then going on to being a respectful coach who understood the referees. Can you kind of talk about that moment?
Well, when I was young, I was that fiery coach, and it's a part of my life I kind of laugh at. I'm not very proud of, but I was well known for standing on boards and yelling a lot of things and doing a lot of crazy stuff. Kind of like some of the coaches we talk about as we referee today. I was one of those guys, and I was coaching a field game one time, and I was just kind of going off, and a referee came over to me and kind of got in my face, and like we stood there on this field in Oshawa, nose to nose, and basically the whole field was silent, waiting for something to happen. And I kind of said to myself, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to give this guy a shot or what? And everyone is watching. And in that split second, my mind went, no, this is not why we're here. We need to stop this. I kind of smiled, walked away. Rest of the night, I just shut up. Changed me as a coach. And then as I continued my refereeing career, I understood what's going on the sidelines a lot more. And it made me a little more tolerant as a referee. Now, I still got a little excited over times and didn't hesitate to throw coaches out, but I had a better understanding because of that moment. just what's going on in everybody's head, and there's got to be a better way to act. And that was a big moment for me as a coach and as a referee.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's awesome. And I mean, you had the experience as a coach and as a player. So you did realize that at times there are difficult times for referees to make the right calls. And you just kind of understood the game maybe a little bit better than the average fan or whatever it may be in the game of lacrosse. Would there be a favorite part to your referee career so far? Or what's your favorite part about being a referee?
Well, you know what? My favorite part is just the atmosphere. I mean, that just depends on, again, a lot of that just depends on what rink you're in, being in the game, what's on the line, who's playing. I just love the atmosphere of being on the floor. The crowd. I mean, hey, when I was a player, I played in Peterborough. Now we weren't getting 4,000 fans back then. We had good crowds. When when you scored a goal and the building erupted. As a referee, you can't score the goal, but when you blow your whistle and you stop and the whole building is waiting to see if your arms are going up or if you're wiping that goal out and your arms go up and the building explodes, it's a pretty powerful feeling, and players get it. But as a referee in a big game, love that every time you get an opportunity to do that and the crowd's with you.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, you're definitely heavily involved in the game, and you're always trying to do the best thing or try to make the best call that you always can at all times. And but there are some downs in games as well. Is there kind of a least favorite part about being a referee for you?
Well, we talk about referee abuse and, getting yelled at and hearing it from the crowd. I think the thing that bothers me the most when I walk off the floor and I'm getting blamed for that loss, and it's like, I ask the question of how can you blame me for that loss? Like, again, I didn't put the ball in the net. Sometimes I'm getting blamed for a loss and I didn't make a call. I was talking about one of the games I think was one of the best games I ever refereed. It was the Minto Cup semifinal in '04 between Six Nations and Victoria. And I don't think I called a penalty in the second and third period. The game went to overtime. And Victoria won on a goal. It was a steal. And player tossed the ball. Victoria kid picked the ball, went down and scored. And that was the only goal in overtime. That was the winner. And I got to the parking lot and it was like, you cost our guys the Minto. You cost our boys the Minto. I went into that rink the next year still hearing I cost them the Minto. And I'm kind of asking myself what I did to cost them the Minto. But you get that you're getting blamed for something that really, you're just adjudicating a game. You're not doing anything that causes goals, takes goals away. You're just making sure everyone stays safe and everyone follows the rules.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, at the end of the day, you're going out there to do your job, and your job's to be an official of the game of lacrosse. And sometimes you have to make tough calls. And you've definitely had a lot of experience in being an official, and you've officiated against a lot of players. In your opinion, who would be the best player or most exciting player that you've ever been lucky enough to officiate?
It's hard to say with that one. I mean, you can go down a list of all-stars, Hall of Famers, John Tavares, John Grant, Mark Matthews. Callum Crawford was one who, was just getting great when I got to referee him in the President's Cup a few years ago. But if I have to say one guy who I really think, and I'm going to put this in the context, I'm not saying he's the best per se as, does this best or that best. His record, his resume says a lot about how good he is. But he's just a guy who gets it done. And I'll say Sean Evans. And what I'll say Sean Evans is, not only can he flat out play, and he is so underrated on his ability to play defense too. He can play both ends of the floor. But I've never seen a guy who can just will his team to win. He won a Minto Cup with Peterborough on a team that probably, I mean, unfair for me to say this, but really was very challenged to win that Minto Cup. Sean Evans willed them to win that Minto Cup. He was the best player on the floor, and everybody knew it. The following year, Six Nations have been to 3 Minto Cups in a row and couldn't get it done. They brought in Sean Evans to win that elusive Minto Cup. Sean Evans also won a Man Cup before he won a Minto Cup. Just a guy who just makes his teams better, wills his team to win, and no stat could ever really challenge that. And that's why when I look at a guy like Sean Evans, I just say, like, that's a guy, that's a player.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Shawnee's won several Man Cups. He's NL championships. He's won everywhere he's played, and he certainly makes his teammates better around him. That goes into again, you've been around the game a lot and coaching. Is there a favorite coach or one of the best coaches you've ever seen? Like, who would that be in your opinion, and why?
Well, there's a lot of really good coaches. I've seen some I've seen some coaches that some of the present coaches, some really good ones, and some that I've seen transitions from being you know good coaches to great coaches. But one who really stands out is the late great Terry Sanderson. Um, no one controlled his bench like Terry did. Like his team didn't take bench minors. No one got Riley on the floor. If someone wanted to come up and say something to me, Terry shut it down right away. He gets the most out of his players, and boy, does he know how to play referees. He knows what to say. I remember my very first game refereeing major. He was one of the coaches, and he couldn't get over how great a job I was doing. And I was like, oh, great. Terry Sanderson's telling me I'm doing great. Gary Martin told me, don't listen to him. He's playing you. And, it's just, he just got it done. I mean, again, another guy whose resume speaks for itself. But one thing Terry did one time was I'm in a game, and it was a pretty intense game. And I made a call, and Terry didn't like it. And he looked at me, he says, Roger, never guess. Don't guess. You get it right or don't make the call, but never guess. And I thought about what he said, and I've always thought about what he said. And it's kind of like, you know what, Terry? That is a great philosophy. And I don't guess. If I don't got it, I don't got it. I'd rather miss a call than guess that something was made. And that was something I got listening to Terry giving it to me on the bench one night.
Well, it's certainly some good advice, and at the end of the day, you definitely hear a lot from coaches and players, and sometimes you hear some good things, and it's always nice to reflect on those things that you hear. Favorite arena to officiate and why?
Alora. The fans are right on top of you. From the moment you walk in, it is loud. They love their team. They love their team, I think, more than anyone else in Ontario, and they will go to hell and back for their team. It's just shocking. I remember I went up there one time for a playoff game. They were playing Sarnia, and John Watts was my partner, and Johnny calls me up and he says, you need to get to the rink an hour before game time, or it's going to be crazy to get in. I got there an hour before game time, and it was lined up out the door onto the street. And I had to fight to get into that rink. And the atmosphere in there was absolutely crazy. Love going there to do playoff, especially a playoff game. Love going to Aurora.
Yeah, for sure. I remember the year after I graduated from my junior lacrosse career. The Green Gaels were in Elora in the Ontario Finals, and I just remember watching the highlights from the games and the atmosphere. There was something truly special for junior B lacrosse, and I'm sure it's an awesome feeling as an official to be able to be part of that atmosphere, and it kind of makes you feel involved in the game, like you're back in your old playing days, sort of say. So I think it's definitely a pretty cool place to be a part of and be part of the lacrosse community. That goes into your least favorite arena to officiate and why.
Um, I would say an arena that doesn't have a lot of atmosphere is one where you just don't want to go into. And a lot of times that goes in conjunction with how the team is doing as well. So if the team's not doing well, the atmosphere is not great. A lot of times as well, you get a team that's playing in the rink that you really, really should. Like years ago, Guelph used to play in the big rink downtown before it was the Sleeman Center. I can't remember what it was called, but it was the big rink where the OHL team played. 3,000 seat rink, and they got the moms and dads in there. The team wasn't very good, so the atmosphere was just awful. It's just a really tough place to officiate, and you got a good game. That's sometimes the only thing that's going to get you jacked up while you're refereeing that game, because it's hard to get going when you score a goal and there's nothing. It's like crickets. So better atmosphere since they moved down to Victoria Parks. It's smaller and more confined, but I can't say specifically a rink per se, but when you get rinks like that, those are the ones that are just hard to referee in.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you talked a little bit about crickets and hearing. You probably everything was like on a microphone in those games. You probably heard everything that was said in the building. so you've definitely heard a lot of things over your officiating career. What's probably the funniest thing a player or coach has ever said to you during a game?
Well, one of my all-time favorites, I'll say this, is Matt Giles. He was captain of the Peterborough Majors, and so one day there's a game, and there's the whistle goes, and I can't remember if it was a call we made or a call we didn't make, but Matt's coming across the floor, and I've got the hand up trying to stop him. And he gets halfway. He says, "Raj, just nod your head and say okay when I get over there. You don't have to say anything. Just nod your head and say okay." And I'm kind of looking and goes, "I don't want to be over here. Coach is sending me over here. He's talking nonsense. He just wants me to ask you this question. I'm not even going to waste your time. Just nod your head, mouth okay. I'm going to stand here for a minute. I'm going to turn around and I'm going to walk away." And basically that's what I did. And he went back to the bench, and I don't know what happened. I think he talked to the coach. Coach nodded his head, and away we went to play.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm sure you've heard a lot of great things over your career, and
That's a wonderful one.
it's great memories to look back on and kind of laugh and enjoy the good parts about the game. You've refereed with a lot of different officials. Have you ever had a favorite partner to officiate, and if so, who was it?
That's a tough one. I mean, because sometimes you get locked in with a partner and you referee with a partner a lot, and you kind of get used to them. Last few years, though, I've been pretty locked in with Blair Ferguson a lot. Me and him have rolled all over the place last few years. So when I say he's my favorite partner, I'm not going to give Blair the benefit of that one. But we work well together. We spend a lot of time working together. We get each other. We know where we're going to be. He's really good at when things get antsy. He's really good at calming me down, because you know we get in the game starts going, and Blair will walk up and he'll say something goofy, and they'll be kind of like, okay, I got you. Or he'll say just something like, look at my eyes, look at my eyes. And I'm like, okay. So we just got a kind of a bit of a synchronicity going there.
Oh, that's awesome for sure. Any officials that stick out in your mind with the best sense of humor?
Me. I don't hesitate to say anything, but then, if it's going to go beyond me, I'll say probably Blair, because Blair says a lot of goofy stuff. You really got to be able to take him. Again, I am so used to Blair that, we had a situation where it was a pretty hairy game and things are getting a little out of sorts. And he comes in and I'm kind of looking down, and he kept saying to me, eyes up here, like it, like that conversation, like you're a woman and you're looking, he's like, eyes up here. And so he just kind of just makes these goofy little jokes, and he'll actually go to the benches. He'll make a joke about me to the benches, and he'll just say something like, "Don't worry about Raj tonight. He's going to be okay." Things like that.
Yeah, exactly. We had the Garland brothers on for a podcast, and they're going to be released later on. But they kind of talked about you being their favorite official because you always brought a lot of fun and humor into the game, and you had a lot of, I guess, pep in your step. They said, and it just brought the enjoyment to lacrosse, and they really appreciated that.
I love the game, and it's exciting. And at the end of the day, it's not about me, but I'm part of it, and I want to enjoy it. And that's the key. It's just, I love being on the floor. I love being in the game. And if I go, and Cody James used to make a joke about seeing me coming in this, getting caught up in a fast break, and I couldn't stop, and I ended up just kind of jumping up the boards because I couldn't stop. I didn't want to go face first in the boards. I kind of just jumped up on the dashboard and turned around and landed. And Cody will always bug me about that every time I see him. But that's kind of my excitement in the game, and just being part of it.
Yeah, exactly. And you've been a part of a lot of games. And over the last few years, there's been a lot of abuse towards the officials. And this is part of the reason why I'm interviewing several different officials in the game. And in your opinion, what would you change about the game of lacrosse to benefit the officials and limit the abuse towards you guys?
Well, it's hard to say. We brought in some new policies that make additions to penalties. It's unfortunate we have to go that route. That we have to, you get a game misconduct, the coach you're sitting for 2 or 3 games. It's unfortunate we have to go there. Because the truth of the matter is lacrosse people are great people, and a lot of these players and coaches who we buck horns with on the floor, get them off the floor, are great guys. Like I mentioned, Cody James. I've known Cody Jameson for most of his life because he, grew up in Hamilton, and knows I used to play against his dad when we were kids. So these are great guys off the floor. On the floor, you're competitive. It's so different. So it's hard to say. It's such an emotional game. One of the things I've always said is maybe at the younger levels, I believe in tyke. And this is something I got from Mark Stainhouse. And me and him had a really good discussion about one day. At tyke, get rid of contact. Maybe if you get rid of contact at tyke, it calms the parents down for one, because their kids aren't out there getting rocked. Because a big kid who can hit, who's an 8-year-old in tyke, creaming that first year 7-year-old is a tough thing. So now the parents are calm. Secondly, it takes a lot of pressure off the young referees. So that pressure off the young referees, they can grow, they can get better, they can work on all the other stuff instead of worrying about getting yelled at and quitting the game. And I think if you get that air of calm in the game at a young age, there's a better chance of that moving on through the game, that the parents are calm and not screaming and going crazy when their kids are in their paperweight year. In paperweight, at 6 years old in paperweight, they're hitting in paperweight rep. I coached for years. I look back now as an adult years later. Why are we doing this? My son Isaac, I said, he's the one who plays in the OHL. I still remember the blood-curdling scream of a mother when he went and blew up a kid when he was 6 years old in a paperweight game. Wow. And I look at these young kids and some things they go through in tyke and kicking parents out of ranks. Maybe if we calm that stuff down at 6, 7, and 8, maybe 9, 10, 11, and 12 will be a little easier. And that generation of parents and players will be a little calmer as we go through the game.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting take, and I mean, you said it there, contact at the young levels, and the parents worrying about their children. Obviously, I think having calm parents and allowing them to understand that their child is going to be okay without that contact is definitely an interesting take, and I think it does make sense. The more calm the parents are, the more comfortable the younger officials will be in the game, and I think that's just such an interesting and great take on kind of limiting the abuse towards the officials. Do you have any lacrosse stories that you like to share, whether they're funny or serious, or kind of good stories throughout the years of your lacrosse officiating career?
One of my favorites is I was at Brock University doing a field lacrosse game. Me and John Watson, can't remember who our third partner was, but homecoming at Brock, and you can imagine it's around the field, it's just packed, the drinking going on, and so late in the game we have a timeout. Now, for any people familiar with field lacrosse, is during a timeout, what one of the referees will do is he'll put his hat on top of the ball with the brim pointed in the direction of play. So Johnny takes his hat off, puts it down, points in the direction the ball's going to go. The three of us get together for a little huddle. So as we're sitting there in this little huddle, this drunk girl comes running on the field, grabs Johnny's hat, takes off into the crowd. So now here's me and Johnny wading through the crowd, running through trying to find this drunk girl with his hat so we can start the game. People on the other side, the players are thinking we're going in the stands, like a fight in the stands, right? So they think we're going in the stands to fight. So some of the players start coming onto the field, like to come across to try and stop this. We finally locate this girl, just negotiate with her that we need our hats to referee the game. And she finally gives Johnny back his hat. And we get on with the game. And everyone's just kind of sitting there going like, what just happened? But that's homecoming at Brock.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great memory that'll probably last with you for the rest of your lifetime. And speaking about memories, we're going to go kind of into more of your family side here. Your children, well, 2 out of 3 of them, I believe you have 3, have gone on to have successful hockey careers. And can you kind of talk about that Olympic experience in Pyeongchang in 2018 with your daughter?
Well, for her, it was a great accomplishment because, she'd only had one opportunity with the senior team leading up. So they go in 4-year cycles, of course. So when she came out of U18, she came out right at the next Olympic cycle. So she's starting in fresh and she's going through, those are her 4 college years, and she's going through college. Never got a sniff for the senior team except for one Four Nations Cup. And, she got to the end and it looked like it wasn't going to be there for her. And they told her that she's got to, she's still in the mix, but she's got to keep plugging along. So her last year at the University of Wisconsin, she just ripped it up. As a second team All-American, and they couldn't deny her. So they gave her an opportunity. They centralized, so 28 women for 23 slots. and she battled through and made the team. So really proud of how hard she had to work to get there. And then just the opportunity to go there, and you go to a rink and you usually see all kinds of advertising on the side, and no advertising, just Pyeongchang 2018. You're sitting there going, wow, we're at the Olympics. And I remember she said to me when we talked after the game, she goes, Dad, I went on the ice and I looked around and went, wow, I'm at the Olympics. So it was just a great experience, and playing against the best in the world. Getting an opportunity to have your games broadcast internationally, all those great things that come with being an Olympian. It was just a fantastic experience. First time I was in Asia, so I had a great time, tried different kind of food and all the things that come with being a fan, being a sports fan.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure that's another memory that'll stick with you forever. Your son Isaac, he was the captain of the Hamilton Bulldogs in the OHL this past season. He also won an OHL championship and went on to the Memorial Cup. Can you kind of talk about that season and then maturing as a player and becoming the captain of the Hamilton Bulldogs?
Well, that was a dream season for me because I came back to the Olympics, and 2 months later I was on a plane in Saskatchewan for the Memorial Cup. So wasn't too happy about that. But just for him, I mean, he was an 11th round draft pick, slugged it out in junior B and worked his butt off, made the team, lived and died on the fourth line. And anyone who's ever played high level sports understands what that's like. You're in and out of the lineup, you play 3-4 shifts a game, and he just battled. Went in the off season and worked hard. Became a regular next year, the year they won the OHL championship, and just had a fantastic season and topped his points totals, all kinds of stuff. And came back the next year, they made him assistant captain. He never wore a letter on his shirt. So you think most of those guys who play in the OHL were the best of the best in their teams, were captains, assistants. Here's a guy who never wore a letter. 5 kids drafted off his minor midget team. He was a 5th of the 5. And, assistant captain, had a great season, learned to be a leader, learned from some great guys like Justin Lemke, who plays out in Brooklyn right now. He was the captain of that team for the first 3 years, learned from guys like that. And the following year, here he was, they made him captain, battled through an injury-plagued season. He's come back the second half and has just battled. He's, looking at opportunities school-wise. He's still got teams looking at him to possibly get camp invites to play pro hockey somewhere. So just everything's about the hard work and putting in the time and the effort to get where you want to be. And one of the things I think I taught them that. I do it as a referee. I read my rule book. I still, hey, when I get out here with you, I'm going for a run because I don't know when the season's going to start. I got to be ready to go. So it's just about putting in the work to get where you got to be.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you've really ingrained that in your children, and they've got on so far to have successful careers, and they still got many years to come. So we really appreciate you coming on here to talk with us, and we're hoping to see you back out on the floor soon. Hopefully when all this COVID-19 stuff gets taken care of and everything's safe to get back out and enjoy the game of lacrosse that we all love so much.
Thanks for having me. Well, it's always a pleasure to talk lacrosse.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to another Play Until the Whistle segment. The officials in our game deserve a lot more credit for the thankless job that they have. Don't forget to follow us on social media, on Instagram and Twitter at SticksPicksLax, and on Facebook at Sticks and Picks Lacrosse. There you will find more lacrosse content and have up-to-date info on future podcast releases. Our podcasts are available on Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube. A reminder that you can find all your lacrosse needs at lacrosseunlimited.com. Be sure to check out our pages for giveaways from Play True Lacrosse.